Hi everyone, Jennifer here with Gaiantheos Coaching and Education, and I'm here doing a piece today on cannabis, specifically terpenes. So most of us who are into cannabis already know about the cannabinoids, right? We have some sense of it or know a lot about THC and CBD. Maybe we know a few others, CBG, CBN. We're feeling all savvy on the cannabinoids, and we feel like, okay, that's like, I got that down. I understand cannabis. However, the whole flower, right? The whole beautiful plant of cannabis has all these other extra pieces, and one of them is terpenes. And maybe you've gone into a dispensary and someone's mentioned terpenes. This happened to me early on, and I was like, okay, wait, there's like cannabis, cannabinoids, now you want terpenes, now you want to tell me about terpenes. I don't understand. It took me the longest to understand this. So I have a much better understanding now, and I want to talk about it because they're so important potentially to our experience of cannabis. In fact, terpenes may actually be very responsible for how we feel with cannabis. We thought it was our cannabinoids, and actually terpenes may play a really large role in how we feel, like whether we feel uplifted and bright and clear and focused and creative on our cannabis, or we feel sleepy and, in the couch and ready to sleep well and really relaxed. Could be because of the terpenes. So what are terpenes? Terpenes are the essential oil of the plant. They're in lots of plants. And if you're into botanical medicine and herbalism, then you already know about terpenes, and you may not even realize it. It's the essential oil, the volatile oil that you smell when you rub an herb in your hands, and you can smell like lavender and rosemary is so distinct. These are the terpenes you're smelling. In fact, with terpenes, because in cannabis they don't really show up on tests very often. So if you're lucky enough to find some on your cannabis product, then you can kind of figure out what you're getting, but you often do not know what the terpene profile is. However, we can use our nose amazingly, and our nose does not let us down, and terpenes actually bind to our olfactory senses and work not only through our endocannabinoid system when we take it in, but also through our nose. And actually smelling your cannabis and deciding from the scent whether or not you like it can tell you what kind of terpene profile you're getting, and will determine whether or not that cannabis really works well for you. It's sort of magical. But to get a little deeper into terpenes, part of what they do that's part of their job, that's so wonderful, is that they impact the permeability of the blood-brain barrier and the skin barrier. So they're often used and important in cannabis topicals. They are part of the whole plant. So something else I'll talk about in a different video is the entourage effect. Maybe you've heard of it already. And that is when you're getting the whole plant versus, a constituent part that's been chemically removed and separated. So the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? And this is what we're getting when we have the whole plant. We're getting all the cannabinoids, we're getting the terpenes, the flavonoids, which I'll talk about in a different segment. And so what do these terpenes do for us? Well, like myrcene, which is a terpene, is the most common in cannabis. It's the one we see the most if we are lucky enough on our cannabis product to know what the terpene profile is. And myrcene is the one that's responsible for kind of the skunky smell. Like that's kind of like kind of the bad credit that cannabis sometimes get, like, oh, it's skunky smelling, although some people like that. That's myrcene. That's a terpene you're smelling, but they don't all smell like that. Some people think all cannabis smells skunky. It's not true. So myrcene is responsible for reducing pain and inflammation. It's a muscle relaxant, and it's actually one of the sleepy terpenes. It actually helps us relax and might improve sleep. Linalool, cool name, huh? Linalool, which smells like lavender or sometimes kind of citrusy, is also, if you think of lavender, if you like lavender and you rub it in your hands and smell it, get that volatile oils on you or have it in an oil, a topical of some kind, lavender is kind of tends to be relaxing. Linalool, no mistake. Very similar, if that's in your cannabis product, it has a tendency, we're all a little different, so it might act differently in different people, but it has a tendency to ease stress and help you relax. Whereas pinene, that's another one, and limone's the second most abundant terpene in cannabis. Pinene smells like a pine forest. How wonderful is that? Limonene smells citrusy or sometimes very pepperminty. And you can imagine, if you imagine both of those, either smelling a pine forest or smelling really bright, strong citrus or peppermint, it's very enlivening. And so those two terpenes, among some others, have this tendency to help us feel brightened and uplifted. Right? Some of those, sometimes we like to try to choose a cannabis that helps us feel that way, and we're looking to our cannabinoids when in fact it might be the terpenes. So the one thing about terpenes is that they're volatile and they're kind of fragile, and so they have to be stored carefully. Glass storage is particularly good. Some of these terpenes can actually break down plastic packaging that they're in. So glass is good. Glass is sometimes better. And why you might see whole flower bud in a dispensary stored in glass jars is because of these terpenes. And so since they're fragile and tend to combust easily and break down, if you're interested in actually taking part and obtaining with your cannabis the impact of these terpenes, then the best bang for your buck, the best way to take advantage of and take in these terpenes for your health and your well-being is a dry herb vape. So that is first and foremostly the best ingestion method. So this is a vape pen of some kind, not necessarily in an oil, but dry herb. That's where you're grinding up whole bud and packing it into the vape and vaping it so that it's heated to a point that vapor is released, and that is what you're inhaling. Smoking is the second most. So smoking a joint or a bong or something like that is the second best way to ensure that you're going to get some terpenes. The more processed your product is, the less likely you're going to have live terpenes in it. So let me see if there's anything I missed. So this is terpenes. I think I've covered it for today. So thank you for listening, and we'll talk some more in the future. But I hope that you try out and think about terpenes a little more the next time you get a cannabis product. Maybe at your dispensary, check out the labels on the packaging or ask one of the bud tenders. Let them know that you're curious about terpenes and want to see if the product you get or that you're interested in has a terpene profile, and see if you can play around with that. And I'd love to hear how it goes for you. Thanks. Good luck. Bye.